the window, I look through and I'm just blinded by this magnificently bright white light. And the next thing I see and I feel is my body becoming completely numb and just paralyzed. I couldn't move anything. And I am basically being taken through the walls and the windows of my room, and I find myself in front of these 6 beings in front of me. And those 6 beings are the beings that you see here. And at first my sight was adjusting, and at first I didn't understand what was happening. I was trying to look beyond the light to see what car was there or who was on top of a ledge. I have a roof on top of, like right where my window is at, on top of the garage. And so I was trying to look past the light to see, you know, who's shining this light. And what I saw was basically a ship and these shadows of people coming in from the light. So it was completely incredible, unbelievable, and my entire body was paralyzed. And they come closer and closer to me, and I am horrified, and I feel a tremendous amount of terror, you know. And these tall grays, probably about 10 feet tall, 7 to 10 feet tall. As you can see, a little bit different sizes, but mostly quite tall. And the tallest one comes next to me and immediately begins to speak through telepathically, okay? And says basically, doesn't say anything, he just transmits calm, just calm, the concept of calm. And my terror, I couldn't scream, I couldn't do anything, kind of just numbs down, okay? And at this point, I can't feel anything, and I'm being taken in to the ship, okay? And as I'm walking onto the ship, these beings have the ability to...
There you go.
Have the ability to shift what the inside of the ship looks like, okay? Wow. As if holographically, basically, and it looks quite real. And the first thing, as I walk into the dark ship, I remember seeing the floor, a metallic floor, a metallic panel in front of me, and then all of a sudden, I'm inside of this hologram, basically, that looks like this outdoor scene with these incredible obtuse buildings, very minimalistic, modern, clean, nothing like I've ever seen before. And I'm walking and there's green grass, but it looks quite fake. And there's a very blue sky that looks quite fake. Okay? So as I'm walking, they take me into one of these buildings. Okay, this is me walking into the building. The building has a table and a little seating open space and a garden. It all looks very, very fake. Okay, just like a scene of a movie, okay? And as I'm walking in, I turn around, they left me. I'm no longer next to these beings, but as I look behind me, who do I see walking from outside of this waiting room are 2 grays and my aunt, okay? Wow. Now, when I see my aunt, I start to panic again, and I was like starting to feel the emotion of terror, okay? And as I do, immediately, they shift the space again. Okay? Basically, they do not want you to feel any kind of lower vibration, okay, at all, at any time. Because this lower vibration, you know, it just, first of all, it doesn't resonate with their vibration. Second of all, it attracts things. It's like you become open to things. So they don't want that anywhere near them. So immediately, again, they numb you. And as they do that, I'm seeing them again in front of me. So here they are again. And this is basically where that waiting room transforms. And what I see is this incredible spaceship, which is a little bit like a translucent material. I can basically see the stars behind there, and I can see their panels of controls, and a table with a blue light, like a hologram of the universe, which they use to navigate. Okay, it's beautiful and incredible and complex at the same time. And so I'm met with these beings here. And the next thing I am shown is, let me show you, is a book, okay? They bring up these, this cubic form, holographic, hologram, 3-dimensional object in front of me. And it's a cube, a blue cube, just like that one. And it has like layers, different layers on them. And I'm looking at this, and they can manipulate, so they don't move anything, but with their mind, they just expand it. And I'm shown this book with pages, and it expands, and they start to write in this alien language. And as I'm watching this, I am so surprised that I try to take in as much as I can, because they're writing so quickly on each page. I'm trying to read and absorb and use my memory, and I was like, I have to remember this for when I get back, but it's just so complex, I can't remember everything. But this is the part that I do remember in the morning that I wrote immediately the next day. And these writings are incredible language, which is a mathematical language, which they speak in infinities. Okay, I don't know how to explain it to you, but the most complex and expansive language that you can ever think of. Okay, that's how they speak. And it's a mathematical language, basically. Every single dot means something, shifts the meaning, and it's like there's no limitation to the language. So it's really incredible. So I'm actually in the process of talking to a couple of people that specialize in alien language to have it, to see if they can read or understand some of this from what I remember, to see if maybe they can tell me something.
Geraldine, who did you go to for that?
I will be going to this lady in Australia.
Mary Rodwell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know Mary, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm hoping to send her this to see what she can kind of get from there.
How could you remember this, by the way? I mean, I wouldn't even know how to start to remember in my head this.
I know. It's just, when I was there, I was panicking. I was like, I have to remember. I was taking a snapshot with my memory. I mean, you know, in school, you know, I used to study, and I do have a good memory. I have a very, what's it called? Photographic memory. Like, I see things and I will remember it in detail quite well. So, you know, that's what I remember from that. Okay, next, the next box that they showed me was basically a hologram of the universe. And as it expands around me, I'm surrounded by these planets, and then all of a sudden I end up on a planet, okay? And the planet that they take me is basically the Pleiades to the Maya, basically. And as I'm there, I see these group of elders, and they tell me, you know, these are your people. And I was like, okay. So I'm looking at this place, and this is my memory of what I saw being there. Okay?
Excuse me, was this a holographic thing, or is this something you're experiencing more as in a real situation?
It's a holographic thing, because we're still on the ship.
Gotcha.
But you know, it was quite real though. So
okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, sure. It was more real than the other one that they created. In addition to that, they show me a picture of myself in front of a lot of people, teaching them and speaking to them. Okay, so that was interesting, and I didn't understand it, but I will understand it because in my second regression I ask about that, and I'll talk to you guys about that. Okay. Okay, the third one, they show me a little box that pops up with little yellow lights. There's 8 of them, and I'm looking at this, and it expands in front of me, and they basically inform me telepathically that I have children. So as this expands, I'm shown my children, okay? And when they show me this, it's a feeling of complete overwhelm that you can never possibly understand. I mean, I don't have children, so when I approached this being that came holographically in front of me, there was such a deep feeling of love and connection that I can't even possibly explain to you. And this being new. Yeah, so as you can see, these beings are very beautiful and complex. They have a tremendous big eyes, not normal like us. I mean, literally around the size of our bone structure here, minimally. And they have very thin skin, and their hair, some of it is very, very thin. This one was the older one. This is my youngest one. And their eyes are complex. They're not simple like ours. They are like almost reptilian slash, I don't know, maybe like a husky dog. Has a very deep, complex eyesight. Yes?
Have you met a hybrid on planet Earth yet?
I have not. So these are all my hybrids that I have. The interesting thing is that I was shown these three. This second one is the one that looks more reptilian. So what that means is that they will mix you with different races, not just one particular race like the Pleiadians. They experiment with many different races to see what it'll take, what happens, what's the highest vibration they can achieve with these beings, basically. Okay. And the youngest one, which is very beautiful, I'm sorry, that's supposed to go down a little bit so you can see her face, but you'll see her later. I've actually had a dream of this child being brought to me since I was like 5 years old by my mother. And this is strange because that's actually something that they do in order to introduce people to their hybrid children and also to abduct them. They create images of beings that you recognize or you know, and that's how they can show you. And you won't understand what that is until you really know what's happening. So it's really interesting that that occurred, and I didn't link the two until later on. The next thing that I'm being shown in the cube is the planet Earth, because at that point, the feeling of overwhelmed from communicating with these beings and being in their presence was so incredible that obviously I started to cry and I didn't want to separate myself from them. At that point, I came to the point of acceptance that they were my children, and I was like, why would I want to leave them? So I started to feel attached to them. And I just want to tell you that to them, that's such a limited and very human way of thinking. It's just so almost like a low vibration. It's like so silly to them because the universe is so expansive and their concept of everything is just much grander. Okay.
But obviously they wanted the hybrids to get something from you too. So
sure,
some kind of interaction for their
yeah.
stimulus.
Yeah, and what I've found is that I do interact with them in dream time as well, and other opportunities that we do have to connect with each other. And there have been times in my life where I was at much lower vibration, but I couldn't see all of them, just 4 of them, and that's because at that time, that's all that my vibration would allow, basically. Okay? So the next one is basically the world, okay? And because I'm feeling this emotion, because I'm having this low vibration, they immediately pull you out and drop you out of that vibration, and they're like, why are you feeling this way? And they expand the world to me, and they show me their matrix, okay? And what they're showing me is basically for me to understand that we live in a matrix. And it was so incredible because just like that movie that was made about the Matrix, it really, truly is like that, okay? Everything is like a strain of ones and zeros. It doesn't look like this. It actually looks like a net. You can imagine everything being in a net, a very thin net of a matrix. That's what everything is, all of us, all our physical bodies. The only thing that's not is our souls, okay? So, and I will talk about that because our soul connection is basically our essence with all our information, which goes into our DNA, into our chakra system, and further. And that's how we operate in this illusion, basically. Okay, and I'll talk more about that and why. So it was very interesting for me to see the matrix and how everything was. And when you really truly understand that perspective, you understand why managing your emotions is important. Because emotions are just tools that we have to utilize to navigate the emotion. The matrix, not something that we have to live by and float around, okay? And it's important to maintain that energy. The next thing that they showed me was basically, they just took me into the universe, into the most beautiful nebulous space, and I got to experience what it was like to be out of the matrix vibration. And it was a feeling of being completely disconnected from family, friends, everyone I know, but on the deepest level that you could possibly imagine. So think if you are so complete, you don't have any ties to you, how would that feel? No emotions, no baggage, no history, nothing, okay? And it was the most beautiful, empowering feeling I've ever felt. And in my meditation, that's what I tried to go to, and what everyone should be constantly vibrating at, okay? my first regression, has anyone had time to look at the regression? Okay, awesome. First, awesome. Thank you for watching. And I do recommend you try to find some time. The first one is interesting. The second one is mind-blowing, the information that comes in. And I understand they are very long to watch. But I went into this abduction because I had kept that in the back. But I've gotten depressed. I got very depressed because I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And my own relationship, my partnership, it just, that person didn't comprehend what was happening to me. And I couldn't understand how I could unite myself with someone that I would be hiding this because there's something very important to me. So when I ended that relationship, I decided to do a regression to understand what happened and to see if it really did happen. And indeed it did. So during the regression, I go into a couple of lifetimes, but the one that was the most incredible, that took me on a very incredible journey around the universe and the world to understand what's occurring. I'm in 31 BC, and I'm walking down the steps. I also want to let you know that the regression online is heavily edited because of very controversial and sensitive information that is not ready really to be out. You know, and I will be publishing it soon. I just have to make certain edits because of the information I'm going to tell you today is mostly more than what this regression was, okay? So as I'm walking into the steps of Petra, when I was in a regression, I couldn't remember, because when you're in regression, you don't have your immediate memory for you to be searching. It's kind of shut off, and all you do is connect, okay? So I don't have the name. All I said in the regression was the door on the wall. But this is what I saw, okay? It was Petra. As I'm walking into Petra, I see this magnificent golden sunlight, okay? And it is just so immense in this gigantic building. And next to that is this being that looks like a bird, okay? These dark beings, they resemble Horus and Osiris. It's a bird-like facial features like Anunnaki Horus, and we know about the history of Anunnaki on the world, and I will be kind of going into that, which we find in almost, tremendous amount of cultures around the world, okay? This powerful orb is made of gold and souls of human beings, okay? Oh. And as I'm looking at this, it's just like alive, it's very alive. Okay, and it was, you know, we do know from the history of the Anunnaki and the cultures that came in to take over the world at that time, that they were looking for monatomic gold at that time. So I find that interesting because when you learn about how these bloodlines kind of expanded throughout the world, you know, you kind of understand why the church was after the gold in so many different countries, okay? So the monatomic gold and human souls, which they feed off. So this is their life support. This is what they live off. They absorb and they eat this energy, which is gold and souls. Okay? What does that mean? So, for example, this building that they're in, which is Petra, it's called Kanesh, like I wrote here. And it is also, so at first they called it the treasury. It was a monastery. Later on they called it a treasury. Both of them make sense because in these buildings is where they did these worships to maintain this precious life support that they used. In addition to that, in my session, it refers to the Grand Arcana as well as the chalice of gold life. Okay, the chalice of life. And I will show you why, because everywhere that this gold substance is where the abundance is for that place. Okay, you guys know the story about the chalice, and also the Grand Arcana.
I'm sorry, was that the Grand what?
Arcana.
Oh.
And of course that's said that wherever that Arcana is where the greatest political power and monetary power will be around the world. So I looked into, of course we know the stories of the Table of Tablets of Gilgamesh, and the story of Enki and Enlil, and the Book of Enoch, which explains how these Nephilim, which is who I was communicating at that time, in order to produce more energy and more people to feed these beings off. We know about the Nephilim, who were the giants that came into the planet to breed with the human beings to create the hybrids, the hybrid beings, which later are the ones that create the elite of the world, and I'm going to get there. So the next thing I want to tell you is in my regression, what I saw was that this sun source was what's being put inside of these cubic squares that we always read about, the Anunnaki bags. Anybody heard about that?
Yeah.
No.
And so they have said that it was like a life support for these Anunnaki beings from space, because they cannot breathe or live just like an astronaut. That's the comparison that they were making, right? However, what I saw in my regression was that in these stone bags is where they hold this gold and soul energy within. And that's what gives them life, what allows them to live and breathe, okay? So this is found all over the world. Sumeria, Assyria, Egypt, Ines culture, the Mayans, the Gilgamesh, the Persians, the Greeks, India, Bolivia, the South Sea Islands, and the American Indians, we all find incredible statues and buildings where these bags are carved into the wall. That's how important they were to those cultures, okay? And this is why, because it was their life support, okay? So it's really, really interesting. And another thing that I want to point at is that these boxes, I was also shown reference to the Mecca, the Baka, where we know that the Muslim religion, they rotate around. And what I saw in my session is as they rotate around, there is an exchange of energy, okay? The humans give energy, and the energy is released, okay? Programmed energy, okay? Which is horrifying to me when I saw that, because basically what is occurring is an enslavement of the people as they do this ritualistic activity of rotating, creating a vortex of energy around this box. And that is, again, another symbolism of the souls and gold that is providing life support for these beings on the planet, okay? So it's very interesting, and in addition to that, they call it the Safat, the portable temple and life support. Okay? Now, the next most incredible thing that I saw, in addition to this information, was how they are changing the DNA strains in nowadays. And what I saw in my session was exactly the image of that UFO that came to the sun, okay? And what I see is that these ships come into the sun and insert a DNA change, because the suns are actually what maintain source life for everything within those galaxies. And different galaxies have different suns, which provides them their specific DNA information to give them life. We have our DNA information from the sun. So if they can create alterations to that, it'll expand throughout the universe within our galaxy with that information. And that's how it shifts and changes. I know that this is incredible to think of, but we have had several sightings of these beings being by the sun, okay? And as you can see, there's an image of how this energy can be implanted within a planet and shifted, okay? In addition to that, every single sun also allows us to receive information, because the sun is basically like the largest antenna of energy for that galaxy, okay? And that happens everywhere. And the way I see the energy in my regression is basically it bounces off like a ping pong of energy around all the planets in that galaxy. What they showed me was that depending on the sun inside of the solar system, the DNA line that originates originally from that sun is the energy that it takes. So they showed me a red lineage. What did I understand from this red lineage? They have red DNA. It's a hybrid reptilian race. They create the physical matrix. They originate in the center of the planet. They manage all natural resources on the planet, and they manage a large percentage of the financial institutions on the planet because they own all of the resources on the planet. And they monopolize the government. And I know that that's a tremendous statement, but I will go into this in a little bit. The second bloodline that they were able to show me was a Pleiadian bloodline that comes from a blue sun, which is at the center of the Pleiades. Now, studies have been shown that in the middle of the Pleiades, they want to call it a galaxy because the biggest planet in the middle of that is Alcyone, okay? And this produces a blue DNA line for the Pleiadian people. And this is the energy that came in to start hybridizing the human race, basically. Okay, so these are the different races coming in. The next thing I want to show you is how do we see proof of these races showing their mark on the planet nowadays, right? The Orion is like a line, it's like a belt, Orion's line. In alignment with Orion's belt, we know that the pyramids were built exactly underneath that constellation, exact mathematically. And we also see that amongst many other incredible pyramids and sacred lands throughout our history, okay? For example, the Star of Ra, the Christ, David, Solomon, Sumeria, Maya, Inca, the Vatican, and Washington are all in alignment with the Orion, which points to the Trinity here, which is the Southern Cross, okay? And all of this is shown within our history of that. In the Hebrew tradition, we know Orion's belt is in alignment with their, what is this called now? I forget the name. With their little candle. I forgot the name of this. Menorah. Thank you. Menorah. So the menorah, and it is the representation of the divine feminine, right? In the same way that the Egyptian tradition is with their chalice, right? We have the Orion's belt in the 3 points of that, which is exactly like the Orion. All of this is pertaining to a sacred feminine of creation. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, I want to show you different flags that maintain this constellation as well. Why? Well, there you go. We have it all over our planet as one of the main constellations which are in communication with us. Okay, how do these beings come into the earth, create hybrids, and manipulate and expand their DNA? They do it in 3 ways. Number 1, they created the hybridization program to create mind control warfare weapons to manipulate the government as they did back in Egypt centuries, okay, applied around the world. They created illnesses to control mass populations, DNA alterations, the dumbing of pure consciousness, which they know was as humans escape from this constant cycling of souls, and I will explain that in a little bit. They created religions based on their ancient pagan satanic Babylonian rituals in order to numb down the human spirit, regression, and ascension, okay? And we know that because a lot of our modern day celebrations are based on a pagan calendar. Our religions are started with a lot of these pagan rituals and practices that they've done. The Catholics, the Muslims, the Jewish, the Hinduism, all of them have a certain similarity within this exact knowledge, which I will show you in a little bit. The next thing that I was shown, which was incredible in my regression, was how the bloodlines have expanded on Earth, how they have combined themselves and taken over the blood of our planet. How these races separated. It all began there in the ancient Mesopotamia, where we have the 3 bloodlines. We have the Middle Earth bloodline, which is the red, the blue from the Pleiades, and the green, which is the reptilian bloodline. Okay? And from there, they expanded over. I saw coming into America, how they came into Canada, how they expanded in the red and the green bloodline, which is the Middle Earth, and the reptilian bloodline all throughout North America, creating all kinds of political connections and expanding from Europe, okay, from England particularly. In Russia, we have, you know, Putin, we have Hitler, which had Pleiadian and the red bloodline, the Middle Earth, okay? Trust me, I know this sounds insane, but when you look at how it has expanded itself over the centuries, you may see and you may question this, and I will show you how and why this information may possibly be true. Have some truth in it, right? So in South America, I saw the Pleiadian and the reptilian bloodlines. I also saw how in the Middle East, we have a tremendous amount of oil and money being switched back and forth from England to America, all being ran by a central organized government, central organized monetary system, central organized everything, okay? The food industry. Yes.
So are you saying that both bloodlines are being sort of distributed simultaneously within the same people, in like same individuals, or are the different people carrying each one?
So what it seems to be, and what I was shown, is that the bloodlines that manage America and the English bloodline, which we will have names for them in a little bit, I will give you names for how they are connected, originated in England and then came over to the US. And in the South America, we have the Pleiadian with the reptilian. Those are the bloodlines that are specific to those countries, that originated those governmental programs within those countries, basically.
I mean, does like say Barack Obama, for example, does he have both the Pleiadian and the reptilian?
No,
or just has one?
He has reptilian and Middle Earth blood. Okay.
When you say Middle Earth, what do you mean by that?
Honestly, I cannot tell you what I saw within my regression because it would be very, very controversial. That's the truth.
Oh.
But the Middle Earth blood line.
Yeah, you're among friends.
You mean subterranean people? Subterranean
Do you mean the
people?
Agarthans, or the
No.
no?
No, the Middle Earth people are the people that maintain, that have created the matrix, the holographic matrix on top of the planet. They are the ones that maintain the monetary system. They are the ones that have managed the money and the minerals of our planet. Because they own the money and the minerals of the planet.
Are they the reptilians or are they?
They are hybrids, but they originate in the Middle Earth. The Middle Earth has a red sun, is what I was shown. Okay.
When
So
you talk about a soul, whose souls are they using?
our souls, human
That's what
souls,
I thought.
souls that come from a source, which I will talk about in a little bit. Okay.
You guys, let's do this. I shouldn't have been interrupted here either. Why don't we let her get through her presentation and then ask her question?
Okay.
No problem. So anyway, here are some fun facts I want to share with you about this information that I received, which I have looked into a lot. First of all, we know that America is the #1 exporter of weapon trade in the world. Okay, and here are some statistics for you to look at, quite recent. World nuclear weapons as well. We know how the U.S. distributes them and manages them with other countries like Russia. Okay, those are the two bloodlines that I showed you above. This is a map of exactly how the distribution of weaponry in the world is, and this is exactly what I saw in my regression. Exactly what I saw. Okay? So as you can see from the United States originates out in a red bloodline and the blue from the Russia. Okay? So very interesting information to come across. Secondly, the military bases, we can see here that the U.S. military base is located where they are, why we will go into in a little bit, and how they're distributed around the world. Okay? Next thing that I was shown, which was very interesting, was what is the difference between humans and what are they doing with the humans here as they are mixing blood? In the United States, what I saw was people completely being like zombies, stuck energetically to their media of all kinds. Just television, the radio, everything, numbing down, keeping them in a very limited mental state at all times. Not only with that, but also with the food, okay? And what I saw was the food providing a black energy, literally, like a black amount of energy, like a liquid, that is within the food that expands within the body and immediately lowers your vibration energetically and makes you feel sluggish, tired, and full. And that is like a magic, if you want to call it, which these beings are doing for us, okay? So I want you guys to be very aware of that. Maybe you experience that in your own life, in your own way that you eat. Just be conscious of this, that this may be a reality, okay? Now we're going to go to Africa, and what I saw was severe, severe poverty and suffering. And the most horrible thing was the testing on pharmaceuticals that's being done there. In Africa and in India. Horrific, horrific, okay, on the people, energetically draining them. They're basically like just shells taking in these experiments, okay? Source connection down to very little, okay? That's the most important thing. What I'm showing here is what's occurring to the source connection, okay? In Russia, alcoholism, tremendous amount of alcoholism, numbing them down, keeping them completely disconnected from what's occurring, trying to escape constantly everything that's occurring politically, financially, just a lot of terrible pain. And of course, throughout the entire world, we have this occurring. In the Middle East, specifically, but this goes for all military, okay? How for centuries, even within our own country, we've been doing experiments on our military, mind control, how we've been trying to keep them down with all kinds of experiments of pharmaceuticals, drugs. We know that from the 60s and the 70s, they tried to experiment drugs and all the MyLab that they're doing on them. And what I saw was basically zombies. Zombies in war, going to war. And that's very painful because I have a lot of friends that are in the army. And, you know, I have, from the small circle that I have of people that I know, to see this is very painful, and it wants you to tell them to, you know, wake up. What are you doing? What are you really fighting for? And that's quite controversial. But at least if we have the knowledge of maybe helping to understand something different, maybe we can help, okay? Most important is the vibration. The next thing that I saw, which was interesting, was all these places in the world, specifically, which maintain one of the highest vibrations on the planet, okay? And I was shown a tunnel system which connects all of these systems underneath the earth. They all connect here. I'm going to show you. We start in my regression. The first thing I'm seeing was, I believe it was BAM, and then Hawaii, Mount Shasta, Arizona, Teotihuacan, the crystal mines in Cancun, Peru, Bolivia, you know, Iguazu, all of these incredible places having portal openings that go into the planet. And I actually saw them within my regression, okay? And I see them coming in through the earth with an opening in Antarctica and an opening above in the pole, okay? So, and of course including all of these other, and there are many more. These are just the ones that I was shown. And it's just interesting because it makes you understand, think about how we have that connection to Earth and what's happening with these tunnels and these openings, okay? What's more interesting is that these beautiful places, these energetic places, are located within what we have heard to be the chakras of the world, okay? And all of these, how they are, like for example, Mount Shasta is supposed to be a chakra, Lake Titicaca is supposed to be a chakra. All of these energetic vortexes in the world hold us, maintain a certain vibration which is incredibly healing and rejuvenating to the human body, okay? So if you want to regenerate, I saw it like the fountain of life basically. So if you ever want to regenerate, you go there to regenerate your energy. And you bring this vibration into your home and create your own energy there. That's important for all of our health, okay? And it's here on the planet to help us heal, okay? What's interesting, and I found, and the reason why I put this on here is because wherever there's military presence, it seems, is exactly where we find these chakras. Just saying. Just saying.
Connect the dots.
Okay? I want to talk about religion, how they take over with religion, let's say. These are the top-ranking religious groups, okay, in US dollars, and the first is the Jewish, and then we have the Catholic, Christian groups, and the third would be Hinduism and Buddhism, okay? Here's a pie chart showing how the religious groups are distributed in percentages around the world. And I also want to point how the ancient Anunnaki religions and myths all began with these stories here. And you guys can look at that later if you want. But everything from Horus, from Athis, from Krishna, from Mitra, Dionysus, Jesus Christ, they all have the same story of creation coming into the planet, okay? Originating within that culture of the Anunnaki and those ancient cultures that we have heard about. Another interesting thing that I want to show you is the Anunnaki gods, the Babylonians. I'm sure you guys are quite familiar with these images. Okay, the beginning, I'm saying, of domination in Mesopotamia. Babylonians had the kiss ring on the slipper of the Babylonian god king. The same powers and the same titles are claimed to this day by the Dark Lama of Buddhism, the Pope. And moreover, the vestments of paganism, the fish mitri from the robes of the priesties of the Dagon, were worn by the Catholic bishops, cardinals, and popes. Enki is a god of the Sumerian Enki and Babylonian Ea mythology. In Babylonian mythology, Ea was a water god who was half man, half fish hybrid. In Greek mythology, Ea was known as the Onas. By the name of the fish god, it is believed that in daytime this deity would emerge from the water, was responsible for teaching art, science, writing to the human race. Okay, so it's very interesting. And we find this all over our Catholic religion throughout the world. Okay, the next thing that I was shown in my regression was the foot of a calf. Okay, and when I saw this, I couldn't quite understand why they were showing me this. Okay. I saw an M to represent certain main companies in our culture that are running our food industry, and I saw a 3. And we know that 3 is the occult number of the religions of the ancient Sumerians, okay, the Anunnaki culture. And here we can see I was shown the calf, most importantly, and this calf ruling the religious thought throughout the world. And I just want to show you this incredible study about how we find this resemblance all around. And we know that Baal was one of the major beings within all these cultures. Who are the idols that we worship even on Wall Street? We see that even on Wall Street. Okay. So the 3 is a very super important number. And because it's supposedly the origin of all these pagan practices, throughout history we find them throughout our religions, many different religions. And I will show you more about that in a second. Oh, this is a chalice here. So number 3, again, originating from the Divine Trinity. The Divine Trinity that we find within the constellation, the chalice. And if we look at the line of the Anunnaki and who came in, we find a lot of the original fountains of resource, of information that started those religions. Okay. Oh. Okay. So how do we know how these people are actually running things on the planet? I went to look at who are the biggest names within our world, running our financial systems, running our food systems. How are these people managing who we are, these bloodlines throughout the world? And what I found was that we have quite a small number of specific families that are running everything, right? Mm-hmm. For example, all of these families here are the Bilderberg family. Basically, the world is being run by 147 companies. And I can email you that entire study that was made that's magnificent. I could do an entire presentation on that. It's very complex. But this is just to show you just a couple of favorites and how they are run by some company, okay? And along with this, within my regression, I also saw Monsanto's, which we all may know that they run the seed industry, and they are the biggest seed growers throughout the world, okay? Yes.
I have to ask this, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
but did you get that chart from somebody else, or this came from your regression?
No, from someone else.
Okay.
This is
Do
through
you
my.
mind telling us where?
Yeah, I can send you links to everything.
Great, great.
Yeah,
You'll have
after.
footnotes and all this in your next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah, gotcha.
absolutely.
Okay.
absolutely.
Because I think I know where it came from.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably Trine Daypraz, probably Chris Milligan,
Okay.
or Peter Levenda, or Hopsticker, or the other guy. Can't think of his name right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
I will.
sorry.
No problem. No problem. So I just want to put out there a couple names that we do know, and which I just showed you, who are running our food industry. Okay. We talk about, for example, this silly meme about the Almighty God, Money, Oil, and Diamonds by Rockefeller, Oppenheimer, and Rothschild, which are, you know, one of the elite that are running our country. And of course, we look at the financial industries. These are the top financial industries in the world, which own a large percentage of our world, as a matter of fact. And there is a tremendous amount of study and proof of that you guys can definitely look into. Okay? So all this information was very interesting. But my question was, okay, so we're screwed. The world is being run by these elites. What exactly are we supposed to do with this information? And what's the point of knowing that these DNA lines are running the world, supposedly, okay? And I went in to do a second regression, and I did this a couple weeks ago, actually, because I had two main questions, and my question was, why did I receive this information? And secondly, what exactly are the hybrids for? Because I couldn't understand why I would have hybrids, okay? So the first thing that I'm shown is the planet Earth, okay? And this is very interesting because as I'm shown the planet Earth, it vibrates within a certain vibration, okay? And each vibration is actually a dimension. That's what I'm shown. Every single movement that the Earth makes is a vibration. So if we're constantly, we always wonder, how do these regressions work and what's occurring in the moment? How can we go back to these regressions and utilize them in our everyday life and change and shift our mentality from the past? How does that even work? And that's because, you know, time is linear, and it's like we are within this planet, and the planet is vibrating, and as it vibrates, we are within these dimensions simultaneously, okay? What does that mean? That means that here in this room, many things can be happening from all of us. All of us can be having different realities within this room. The other incredible thing that I was shown was that the Earth, because it moves in this specific way, it's like a donut shape, where it has the top and the bottom parts open. And within the middle, as I saw from my other regression, that there is a sun and other beings that come in from Earth. They showed me that it's more like a donut-shaped world, okay? And of course, we have the Van Halen belts that revolve around our Earth within that movement. I just want to show you that a motor, in order for a motor to work, it does need that top and bottom opening as the motor is revolving in and around. And that's exactly how our Earth was shown to me as working, okay? So it was very interesting. Within these dimensions, my question was, if we're constantly living in these dimensions and we can, in any moment, shift dimensions, what is this concept of us coming into the fifth dimension that we all hear about, right? And how exactly do we end up in another dimension? And the answer that I was shown is through vibration. Because the Earth moves itself in constantly, creating dimensions with every single movement, every single tick, each movement is one dimension, then we have incredible amounts of choices within our own lives and choosing in what we do and how we're going to operate these dimensions. And one of the things that I was shown was the 8, okay, which is the infinity sign. And I want you to keep that in mind because I'm going to go back to what we talked about previously, that as the world is vibrating, it is going towards the center of this infinity sign. This is actually how the world is moving within its place. from one dimension to another. And as it enters the middle of this loop, it speeds up to a higher vibration. And the 5th dimension is basically on the other side of that. So what does that mean? That means that vibrationally, in order to end up on the other side, vibrationally, you have to have that vibration high enough in order to go over into this dimension. Okay? Because we live in simultaneous dimensions, you know, parts of us will be left behind, parts of us will go forward with that. And that's what it means to have different dimensions that we're living in. Okay? That's really important because our vibrational level is very important to what's occurring within the changes, within these shifts that we're feeling. And there's some people that really just aren't there and they just don't know any of this. They're not conscious to any of this. So it really is like they're living in a different dimension, right? And that's actually what's happening on an energetic level. What is DNA? And why it's important that we are moving through these dimensions, and how can we move through these dimensions? Because we live in a multidimensional world, that means that we also have a choice of how we navigate those dimensions. So based on our vibration and how we vibrate, we can choose which way we want to go. However, because it's multidimensional, we also are living simultaneously different lives at the same time, okay? And how I can explain that to you is, for example, this very simple picture of a relationship. In one part, they're happy and joyful, and they have a family, and it goes on and on and on. In another dimension, they broke up, and they're single, and they went on to their own lives. So simultaneously, those energies still exist within our time. It's a matter of our vibration, what we choose, okay? But somehow, we are outliving all of those options at the same time, okay? And at some point or another, we cross with those in our lives, okay? For example, the probabilities of probable realities, here are some examples. In one, you're experiencing your desire. Another one, you're wishing your desire. Another one, you're worrying about your desire, waiting for your desire to manifest, trying to force. And all of these probabilities have a different vibrational level. So that will direct which way you will go, whether you will go in the 5th dimension, whether you go in that dimension. Okay, that's how the dimensions operate, as it was shown to me. Why is DNA important? Because all our choices that we make are recorded within our DNA since lifetime, since the beginning of our essence, okay? Every choice that you make, even right now in this room, whatever you eat, all of that is somehow recorded within your DNA and stored as information, because that changes your vibration. And any shift in vibration is information that gets stored in the DNA. And then when you die, the soul contains this information, and then whatever needs to happen then, and I will show you a little bit of that in a minute, okay? Okay, the next thing that I saw that was incredible was the planet Earth, and something called seekers, which are people that are said to be conscious, awake, and more importantly, source connection from the future, from a higher plane, from a dimension that's further up the line, coming back, communicating with us here on the planet in order to help us evolve and transcend all of this illusion and everything that we are going through here in this planet, okay? What does that mean? It means that some of us are, for example, have been infected with a virus of unconsciousness, and the ones that are awake are fighting it, almost like you see red and white blood cells fighting an illness within the body. What I saw is the planet Earth being like a cell, a white blood cell, which on it contains its pertinent white cell beings, which are working to raise the vibration of this planet so that it can travel as it needs to its source. During my regression, I was able to go high to the most highest levels of what our universe could be through a spiral of light, and to the very ends where I really couldn't go further because the vibration was high and I couldn't see past it. But for what I did see was that the Earth is a cell within an organism of cells, within another organism of a cell, and another organism of a cell. And it's all like this infinity loop that we see, and it's like a round being of energy and life, okay? So the magnificent thing about that is that the people on this planet that are becoming conscious are the ones that are assisting with the healing of this planet collectively. The soul ascension, as per, so to speak, is basically the healing of this illness of this planet, okay? Now, we understand reincarnation on the planet, the cycle of the souls. We say that we're stuck in a soul trap, right? What is incarnation? And as we're coming into the cycle after cycle after cycle, our soul is in a way trapped within the reincarnation of this, okay? Why is that if the white blood cell needs to continue on to source? And I just want to show you just how the infinity line is. That's basically how we are within this dimension, because this world was created under the concept of infinity, okay? Just like the chalice, and I will talk to you about that in a second. The next thing I want to point at you is that in the universe, what I saw was that there was another organism, like a red organism, which is a fear organism, separate from the earth, which feeds off our use of that organism. Now, that organism of fear is not to say it's something scary or terrible. It's just a natural part of the universe, basically. Just the way naturally within our organism we have different cells, different pieces working together in order to create a divine balance, okay, in general. And this organism is, as we use that, being used as a tool by these beings, the infection that has come into the planet in order to manipulate and to control the masses, basically. And that's why I went through the history of the past and how we have a reference of the Anunnaki races coming in, blending with the DNA of the planet. And as I don't know if some of you have read the book of Enoch, some of these ancient texts about the creation of the planet. As per that story, the planet was created within two dualities, within one creation, which is source. And from source was said to be the feminine aspect of that, which was Sophia. Sophia bred life into Yaldabaoth, and Yaldabaoth then created the matrix that we live in now, the archons and all that. The AI being in the universe are all on the other end of the energetic duality. Okay? These beings, and here's an image of someone that put the archons feeding the friendly. I'm not saying that this is what's occurring, but in a sense, all of these creations within the universe that we believe is a black space with planets, with aliens, with different races, with different galaxies, is one duality of the universe, of the creation of the all. The other is what we believe as source. Okay? So the way I see it, the way I saw it, was that these two dualities are basically like the DNA strand. And one of them is the galaxy and the universe, the creation created by this Sophia. Okay? The other is source, which we believe. Those are the two dualities. One was shown to me like, well, this goes into the Sophia, and this is just a reference to the old ancient texts which talk about Sophia, the divine feminine, as the creator, bringer of life here on the planet. And this is an incredible piece of artwork that they created in the Kabbalistica Magica. But it's interesting because it talks about the divine feminine coming in, creating the planets, and then all the beings that came in, which we find in our history, okay, in our history around the world, in our religions. In all religions, we find a reference to this information. And a lot of symbolism amongst a lot of things in our world are linking back to this concept of Sophia being a creator, the divine feminine, the Virgin Mary, the triad. Again, you see the three, the Holy Trinity, the God, the source, the creator, and the Son, the hybrid Son, which I will tell you, which was created through the merging of these two bloodlines, of these two essences of energy. And we have, the Holy Grail, okay, the divine feminine, the chalice, the womb that we find of the feminine, divine feminine. So as you see, what I was shown was the two dualities, Source and Sophia. Source was like a white hole, expansive, most magnificent creation, and Sophia is like a black hole. It is a concept that is like the negative, contracting, okay? And this is how I was shown the source and the two dualities. So the question is, are we a cell inside a body? Okay, we have a million galaxies floating around the universe within this spherical essence of life, just like red and white blood cells. Are we a white blood cell planet trying to fight off this red virus or a virus with these creation of Sophia, this matrix, this AI ruling the planet, ruling the food, financial industry? Is that what the virus that we are trying to kill in the planet with our source and connect to source and bring us back into the health of this planet, of this organism? Okay? So that is the question. We find within our own physical body, the universe basically, within images of brain cells that look exactly like the galaxies. So just like that infinity loop, everything goes into infinities within the body, within every structure and molecule of this world, of this planet, of this creation, is a constant cycle of creation, which is really incredible.
Excuse me, what's on the far right? Dunkin' Donuts or something else?
Let me see. You mean the eyes?
Oh, eyes.
These are eyes. These are, it's an iris.
It looks like glazed donuts to me.
No glazed donuts. Yeah, these are eyeballs with irises that, they are like the nebulas. So. And it's just an example to show you, even within our own physical body, we find, an image of the grander scale of things. Mm-hmm. Okay, next, why are we talking about hybrids then, with all of this occurring? What happened to me in my second regression was I actually went deeper into some of my abductions, because I wanted to know, how do they do it, how come I don't remember, and what happened. Because we are vibrating on different dimensions, the way they understood and showed me, these hybrids are being a combination of, I'm going to say, AI with humans in order to create a third energetic vibration, which is higher, okay, than us here on this physical plane, in order to intercept within those dimensions that we are living on this 3D planet. However, as we are shifting into different dimensions, we are then preparing the world in order to receive these beings that are being created. Okay, so there's a lot of speculation about this, and we don't know what's actually happening. But from what I saw in my own experience, these beings are coming in to assist and intercept on some energetic level the shift of the planet. Now, whether that's good or bad, you cannot say, because the reality is that in this natural evolution of everything, there is no good or bad. There just simply isn't. It's just all the natural balance of the creation. It's a natural balance of coming from illness to health, which we are all in charge of vibrationally on the planet. When I was taken on the abductions, and I'm not going to go too much into them because you can watch the video, it's all there for you to see, all of them that I was able to recall. I can only recall a couple of them because then they literally interrupted my regression. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that from an energetic point of view. I was sitting there being regressed, and then a very heavy energy went over and swiped the image of what I was seeing. Mm-hmm. So very vividly and clearly, I even told my hypnotherapist they're not letting me see more because it really did, it happened this way, okay? Mm-hmm. And what I saw is that they find many different ways to take women, okay, and men, women and men, everyone can be taken for their babies, yeah, and they either do insemination, they incubate for a week, they remove them from the incubation of the womb, they put them into these glass bowls with plasma within, and connect the tube of the umbilical cord, like a faux, umbilical cord, in order to maintain life cycle. They use these mock realities to harvest. So, for example, one occasion that they took me, they used an image of a man that took me, did the insemination. Later, they took it off, and then they erased your memory of what happened. So, all of these things are just completely mind-blowing because you wonder what happened, but on a more physical level, and okay, the third one is you lose time and they remove you interdimensionally, okay? Because they don't work on the 3D dimension. They have the ability to intercept this dimension quite easily at any time. It doesn't mean they understand our emotions and how we operate, but this is how they operate, in our dimension. Now, the thing about this is that what I have found is that a lot of women that are abducted have physical signs of this. For example, they have very difficult periods, okay, or they have a severe amount of abnormal periods, like they will have 1 month where they have it, some months when they don't. And I can tell you that that has happened in my own life, okay? And I was always wondering why, because I would go through episodes where it was perfect, and then after a while I wouldn't, and it just a constant strange imbalance, okay? And we can say it's because of your life, you were under stress and all those things, but there's even more proof within my own physical body of a lot of women that have gone through, had cysts in their body and endometriosis within the womb, a lot of growth, and after that, women that can't have children. And I've spoken to a lot of women, and I'm one of those, I can't have children. So, and we've always done studies to understand why. So what I found in my second is that I don't only have 8 children, I have 24 children. Okay? That means that they took me many times more than I thought. What does that mean? The 8 that I was shown was the perfect ones that they created. 9 were the ones that they needed to be altered or fixed, and 7 are the ones that were failed.
Whoa.
Okay? So that means that they really play with the DNA and they see what holds, what hooks, you know what I mean? And as you can see through my own children, some of them are more reptilian, some of them are more Pleiadian type creatures. So they use many different bloodlines to create the highest vibration or within the agenda that they're looking for. I also saw that the aliens that did take me for the children were not the tall grays that I saw, were actually a different race that were more reptilian type. So I don't know the exact name, but I know that they were reptilian type.
So the tall grays are more of like an educational connection?
Not all tall grays. Oh, another
Or
thing
in your
I want
experience?
to, yeah. The tall grays that took me were actually part of my star family, which I then found out within this group that I am part of the Pleiadian star group and part of a council. And you guys can see the video to learn more about that. But what I do want to talk about today is that we cannot define races. For example, I showed you the bloodlines coming in here with a certain race, because we live in a multi-dimensional universe, not just planet, universe. Everything is of different vibrations, even those races. Even those races have good, bad, with different agendas, basically. It's not good or bad, it's just different agendas that they're carrying out, each for their own meaning and thing, okay? So, on my abduction, one last thing I want to tell you, one way that they do put in is that they inject things into your body and implants, which is a lot of people experience that. But one thing that was interesting was that they implanted in a bodysuit within my body, a blue liquid, which monitored the health of my womb as they were harvesting during that time, which was pretty incredible and extremely painful. And during that time that I was taken with that, each time I show you in my video times where I was extremely sick, and I am allergic to antibiotics, and I couldn't understand why, but this explains it, because within my regression I found that this body within the body is rejecting any kind of chemical substance that may alter the blood completely. I couldn't take any medications, not even until today. So yeah, so that's another interesting proof. And a lot of women that are taken experience the same thing, the more and more women I talk to. So, one thing I'm here, and this is pretty much the end of my presentation. Oh, I want to show you, once again, what are the hybrids for, right? So they embody higher strands of DNA. They are not part of the reincarnation cycle like we are, because we are part of this constant infinity cycle, which we see within our religions, with everything, of this universe being an infinity, okay? We are within a matrix, okay? Our souls are what are being cycled through this reincarnation. The hybrids are not, because they do not maintain that same source connection. They do have some aspect of a soul, and this is still, like, we don't have proof of this, and there's a lot of discussion about this, whether hybrids maintain souls, whether AI maintains souls, you know, and what I have seen through my regression and through what I've experienced is that they do not maintain the kind of soul source essence that we have as humans, and that's why they try to breed and try to create these hybrids with humans specifically. That's really important to state. They do not carry any altered, dirty DNA that is cycled like we are, constantly cycled, holding on to baggage, centuries. We have past lives that we bring in, traumas, you know, so much proof that we have a lot to work on to cleanse our DNA. And that's why a lot of spiritual people and New Age people are talking about cleansing the DNA, resetting the DNA. Well, this is what we're talking about and why we need to do it. Okay, they are being born on the planet. They are prepared to have timelines erased. Oh, they are prepared to have our timelines erased or replaced as necessary. So in case we shift from one dimension, they will enter into another dimension to continue to alter within the bloodline, because they do take women and men within a certain DNA bloodline. Okay? That's why, and I'm going to tell you within my own family, the fact that I saw my aunt there, she was taken and she has had hybrid children. And we have her regression as well, where she does prove that. And also during the time in October where I was taken, she had had dreams, extreme vivid dreams about being taken. Okay, and so the coincidences are just too much to be comfortable. My mother has also been taken, and my grandmother has also been taken. And we found all these things recently. They're not things that we've known or have even considered. You know, we would never even think about this before. Okay? As one being leaves the dimensions, the hybrid enter in the multidimensional reality to alter timelines in reverse. They are groomed to obtain a much higher vibrational state. They require the knowledge of a human that is reincarnated several times. In order to stop being affected or abducted, it is imperative that you raise your vibration. On some level, if you want to talk about the soul contracts and the karmic contracts that you make, we do have a sort of agreement with these beings to carry this out. However, we also have a choice by raising our vibration, which is really important because the universe operates on vibration. Okay? In order to stop being affected, okay, humans have their connection to source in which they are able to choose and say no and break the contracts. I teach how to break karmic contracts. Okay? Raise the vibration in order to cloak yourself energetically from the matrix and from these beings, because everything is energetic. And how can we raise the vibration? And that is work, right? That's work that you have to do, cleansing yourself on every level. Not just spiritual, not just what you eat, what you do in your life, you know, how you feel. Your emotions are a vibration. It's important to maintain it at a certain level. A lot of times, you know, when I talk to some people that talk about having lower vibrations, they lose their connection to source. You know, that's why you're losing it. You're lowering your vibration. You have to look at your life, what's lowering that, and raise it as quick as possible. You know, try to be conscious of that. And the other thing is these archons and these entities on the planet are creating all of these opportunities for us to lose our vibration. So that's really important, and it affects us on more levels than one. Okay? So that's my presentation.
Right on.
Okay, now you guys are ready, go for it, questions?
Questions?
Okay, thank you very much. So you're talking about the archons and the other entities. So they are working with the elite or the New World Order to flatten us more so than we're flattened. Is that it?
Yeah, so basically they have groomed our entire human race in order to maintain our vibration at a certain level. Very unconscious, very in sleep, and we see that. We see that so clearly with the way the media works, constant fear-mongering, you know, false flag events that we're constantly being afraid of. This is just, it's just a constant everywhere. Within our food, half of our food is fake. It's all altered. It doesn't have any nutrition. We have to farm our own food. And if we do, we don't even know if the seeds are going to give us the nutrition. It's become almost impossible to maintain our bodies where they need to be. That's why it's important to go to these natural places that produce this vibrational energy to align and heal and open ourselves to information that we need to receive for our own bodies.
Okay, so I just wanted to follow up with this. So the only way that I as an individual can change myself in the world is by meditation, prayer, cleaning my act up, not crying, stuff like that, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay,
It really is that simple and that difficult, because you know our vibration is what maintains us working through different dimensions as well, right? So we're working on a multidimensional universe. Every dimension is a choice.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah.
Thank you.
I just have a real basic question. So your abduction was a physical abduction? Your physical body was abducted? Or was it your astral body? Or
Yeah, I'm going to say my physical body, and the reason why is because the next day I was laying upside down, hanging off the side of my bed, which never happens. Okay, my bed was open, and I was laying on upside down, facing, like basically hanging off my bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
You got abducted by tall grays, and they were showing you Pleiadians and reptilians, and so that they have access to the Pleiadian DNA. Like,
Yeah. So you're asking if it's the same Pleiadians that came to the Earth to spread their DNA?
yeah. I guess I wasn't clear to me the difference between the different call them races of beings.
Yeah.
You know, there's like 3 simultaneous bloodlines, or does that mean 3 experiments that are competing?
Yeah, it's not so much that they're competing, I just think they have different agendas that they're working on. The Pleiadians are one race, as far as I know, and it's the same blood. It's just some are being put in to alter things. And of course there are hybrids, like myself, which is supposedly I'm a hybrid Pleiadian as well, which, you know, maintains a certain vibration for the planet because I have soul essence. Okay. The Pleiadians that come from the original Pleiades are said to not have the soul essence that humans have, basically. But it's the same blood. It's the same blood coming from that blue sun, basically.
Okay, so the ones, the Pleiadian, I forget my question. Anyway.
So the Pleiadians that came to Earth, they're still Pleiadians. They're still Pleiadians, the ones that came to Earth.
Yeah, so that, who's doing the hybrid, who's creating the hybrids? Are Pleiadians creating them?
Yes.
And reptilians are creating them?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, a lot of alien races are creating hybrids on the planet. The ones that I was shown are Pleiadians and the reptilians and the center Earth ones.
Okay, separately.
Well, the bloodlines are being combined for their own use of human beings because they use the DNA to communicate with their people. The DNA is information, right? So each son provides the DNA strand information, which is then being put on the planet and spread around in order to manipulate the whatever's occurring on the planet, like a virus taking over this particular planet.
So one person could have Pleiadian DNA and reptilian DNA and the Middle Earth DNA all at the same time, just for whatever reason that happened to be created like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all in this room, everybody, we're a mix of all that.
Yeah.
You speak for yourself, no, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, I don't think that they even have a name for what I came out with.
So just how do you sort of keep your composure so well? I mean,
Yeah.
with all this have happened,
I mean, I just accept, and my source connection is very strong, very, very strong. Okay, I was an event planner for 10 years. My life was completely different 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And when all of this happened and my eyes open to this information, you can't close your eyes again and go back to sleep. And trust me, I tried.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like, I went through several existential crises and dark nights where I literally was at the point of suicide because, you know, it's like, what's the point? Like, if all of this is happening and these horrible things and these DNAs and these babies, like, what's the point? And the point is source connection and your purpose on earth, so to speak, in order to raise your vibration. You can't get out of it. You're a part of this, whether you like it or not. You know, it's like you're here and this is your job. You know, this is what you exist, and if you don't, then you're going to just continue to cycle through that reincarnation cycle. It's just going to happen either way.
When you say you have 24 children, did they harvest your eggs? I mean, I don't get it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So within the regression, I go in deep into that. But basically, they've done all kinds of things. They've gone in to put implants to remove them. They've inseminated. It's grown. And they would take it out right before, and I'm sorry, this is going to get kind of graphic, but I do want to explain this to you so you know it's very real. You know, right before your period, they would take it out, and then I would have terrible periods or something like that would occur, okay? So it's very real. You feel it on a physical level, but you don't understand why you're experiencing that until you look at this stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, yeah. This
And you
happened.
said you were abducted by different...
The only ones I did see in my regression was tall beings with horn type of things, reptilian type of beings that were doing the insemination and taking that out. But I do know that on the ship, you know, there are other beings too. So, like I said, it's a vibrational thing. These people have a certain agenda, and they carry out their agenda.
Can I ask one other question?
Yes.
There are mystic masters and inner planes experiences that people do either in sleep state or in meditation. And have you had any connections with those types of consciousness as well?
People that are in other dimensions? Masters?
Yeah.
That are where? Are they physical or are they?
Could be physical or in another dimension or futuristic beings that...
Yeah, so
that are more human type.
not 3D humans like this. I mean, I've talked to my guides and all that stuff and seen people, and I see energy, so that's why I do the work that I do. I can see multidimensional bodies and whatever's occurring in your space and entities as well. But what I have found during my practice and also what I have seen in my regressions and information that I've read is that entities and these kinds of illusions, we have to be extremely careful because they're not always the vibration that you think they are. And because vibration, it depends on our subconscious mind, that's very complex. It's extremely complex. So we might not consciously know where we're coming from and where vibration, we think we're like, oh my God, these wonderful beings are around me, but they may not always be the beings that you need to see and then things happen. So, you know, we need to learn to protect ourselves. And of course, I've talked with people that were deceased of my clients, for example. I've talked with my higher beings and my higher self connection. But to be honest with you, personally, I only connect to source and nothing else. Yeah.
Could you say a little bit more, at least of the headlines of what you do personally to raise your vibration?
Yeah.
Or what you recommend?
And we can only have like one more question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I am a meditation instructor, an Ascension coach. For me, my daily personal routine is extremely, I spend a lot of time on it because maintaining my vibration at a certain level is very important to me. I meditate every morning at least an hour, okay? And if you can find some way to fit that into your schedule, even if it's just 15 minutes, I teach an energetic alignment I created an acronym for called GPAC, called in grounding, protecting, aligning, and creating, which goes into working with the multidimensional energetic body, okay? And basically what you're doing is you're using a shamanic and pranic practices in order to align yourself and connect to source. And through my own personal experience, that has been what has opened my connection to source more than anything, okay?
And did you find that in your regressions, or how did you get that information? Or you just stumbled onto it, or you cultivated it?
Yeah, so a couple of ways. I am a certified holistic stress management. I have a meditation instructor certification, pranic healing certification. So I've done a lot of studying in the Eastern practices, pranic healing practices, and energy work. And through those practices, what seems to work in acceleration, from my perspective, I can only give you my perspective and what has worked for the people I work with, is running energy, breaking contracts, and working on a higher level energetically. You have to work with energy within the body in order to raise the vibration.
Thank you.
Basically, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.